Hi everyone, and welcome to NCARB Live. I'm Nick Ruspecki, and I'm joined by two fellow experts from our examination team, Ryan Meisner and Michelle Cohn. Now for those of you active on our ARE 4.0 or 5.0 communities, you might look at us and think, wow, they look familiar. Have I seen them before? You have. I'm actually Nick NCARB, and we have Michelle NCARB and Ryan NCARB here.
It's us.
Today we're going to cover everything you need to know about taking the ARE, including the retirement coming soon of ARE 4.0 and transitioning to ARE 5.0. Now you can send in your comments to us so we can answer your questions here. You can use the chat tool on your screen or use the comment feature below.
I think the retirement of ARE 4.0 is probably a great place to get started. So Nick, do you want to kick us off a little bit and tell us some background information and things to know about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're not aware, ARE 4.0 is retiring on June 30th of this year. So we're only a few months out. So if you haven't marked it on your calendars at this point, I highly recommend that you do so. So that is your last day that you can actually take an ARE 4.0 division. Now, if you haven't taken advantage and checked out our ARE Transition Calculator, I highly recommend that. So what the ARE Transition Calculator is it tells you, based on which divisions you've passed in 4.0, how they're going to transition to ARE 5.0. That's available on our website, or you can also check it out through your NCARB record. And then finally, the best piece of advice I have for you is, at this point, make a plan and test strategically. So take advantage of that transition calculator, make a plan whether it's finishing in ARE 4.0 or jumping forward and transitioning to ARE 5.0.
It's great. And what's the last day for ARE 4.0?
June 30th of 2018. That's
June
this
30th,
year.
2018, folks. Okay, so speaking of transitioning and ARE 5.0, Michelle, what are some of the benefits of transitioning to ARE 5.0?
Well, the first one that comes to mind, Brian, is there are fewer divisions. So ARE 5.0 only has 6 divisions, which is one less, of course, than ARE 4.0.
Always good.
7 divisions, so that's an immediate benefit right there. But the other kind of big picture benefit is just new technology. So you'll still take 5.0 at a Prometric test center, but that new kind of behind-the-scenes technology allows for some improvements in the exam, which really keeps the ARE aligned with best practices in other licensure exams. So one of the immediate changes that, one of the most recent changes, I should say, is provisional feedback in the test center.
Yeah.
So candidates now, when they test in ARE 5.0, they can get feedback right away in the test center, their likelihood of passing or failing that division before they even get up from the computer. Some other new, I guess the new technology in 5.0 allows us to have graphics throughout the exam. So we can now have new question types like hotspots and drag and place. We've got case studies. And of course, all of that new technology in 5.0 means we can retire that old technology, the vignettes, as of June 30th, 2018.
And when was it retiring again?
June 30th.
June 30th, 2018. Okay, we were probably going to keep hitting that date a lot, because not that we think that you are forgetful or anything, but we just want to make sure that everyone is set up for success as much as possible, and we don't want anyone to miss that date. But I think, speaking of setting up for success, there are a couple just policies that we also would like to go over with you. Just as quick reminders, and these are policies that apply in both versions of the exam, whether it's ARE 4.0 or ARE 5.0. I think the first one is rolling clock. And rolling clock, hopefully you know, only applies to your passing scores. That means that passing score is valid for 5 years. What is really important to remember now, particularly in regards to the transition, is that those rolling clock dates go with you in a transition. So if you're transitioning from ARE 4.0 to ARE 5.0, you're using a CDS exam to get credit for CE in ARE 5.0, that rolling clock date is still going to apply. So make sure that you're aware of those dates. They're all laid out in your NCARB record and should be pretty clear in there, but they don't reset when you transition. So just be aware of that. Second policy that we want you to be aware of is the retake policy. Again, this is the same as it has been, and it applies to both ARE 4.0 and ARE 5.0. Our retake policy is 60 days. So anytime you take a division, if you fail that division, you can retake that exam as soon as 60 days. Now, the only caveat is that you can take it 3 times in a running year. So let's say you test today, February 15th, you could take it again in 60 days, which would be April 16th. You could take it again in 60 days after that, August 14th. But then after that, since you've used 3 eligibilities at that point, you wouldn't be able to take it again until February 15th of next year. So hopefully that's clear. And the reason this policy is in place is because of security of test content. And I think the security of test content is one last good thing to hit and to be a reminder of. We just want to remind you, no cell phones in the test center. So whether you're in 4.0 and you take that mandatory break in between your multiple choice portion and your vignette portion, please do not go to your lockers and access your cell phones. Or if you're taking the flexible break in ARE 5.0, do not go to your lockers and access your cell phones. That is not allowed. The other thing is, as soon as you leave the test center, no copying down test content. And certainly no posting that anywhere, no sharing it with others. Just a reminder that you sign a confidentiality agreement when you're in there and you take the exam. And we take cheating very seriously. We've had a couple instances lately where this has been a problem. And we just don't want anybody to get caught in a situation that compromises the exam or affects their ability to test. So just please be aware of that.
Absolutely.
Yep, great reminder.
Yeah. Let's switch gears a little bit. It looks like some questions are starting to come in now that we've gotten kicked off here, and take some of those. So CJ asks, I have one exam remaining. It looks like it's their structural systems exam, which I have taken 2 times in the past. Do the retake rules apply or get modified for the transition people?
You want to take that one, Michelle?
Sure.
I will take it.
Yeah, well, the retake rules, they still apply. I mean, that's the short answer, is that, again, between now and June 30th, 2018, still the same policies are going to stay with 4.0 until that very end. So, yes, CJ, if you've taken structural systems twice, you've got that one more retake. As long as you've waited the 60 days from your last retake, then you'd be eligible to take that one more time, and then 4.0 would retire at that point.
Yeah.
So, well, hopefully we'll say that you're going to be able to pass that. If you're not, then obviously then it would become transitioning to 5.0 and what that would bring for you in the new format.
Yeah. I think best advice on that is just get in and test as soon as possible. Don't push those things off until June or late June by any means. Test centers are going to fill up. We never know what can happen, and so just get in and test as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Okay, Raphael asks, where are the mock exams for ARE 5.0 located? 4.0 has some brief 20 to 30 question mock exams, which really help in getting acquainted with the content of the material, hoping for the same mock exams in ARE 5.0. Well, I think we have those. Where can we find them?
We do. That's a good question, Ryan. So on our website, there's a section dedicated to the ARE. And what we've done is we've created a nearly 200 pages document called the ARE 5.0 Handbook. What that handbook has is it breaks down the content from each of the divisions, the 6 divisions of the ARE 5.0, and it also gives examples of the different item types that you'll expect to see on the ARE. Now, along with that, we want you to be familiar with the actual software that you use once you go into the testing center. So we've created what we call as the ARE 5.0 demonstration exam. Now, that's 20 questions, and it allows you to log in from your home computer, as long as you have an internet access to that, and then you can go in and you can basically click through a demo version of what you could expect to see as far as user experience in the test center.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 resources that I would recommend that this individual go ahead and study.
Okay. And so the questions in the demo exam, where do they come from?
Well, they come from all 6 divisions.
Okay,
So Nick
absolutely.
mentioned that it's 20 questions. That's 20 questions from a few questions from each division. There's a case study in there, so that's a great opportunity to try out the case study format,
Yep.
understand how to navigate the resources, use those different tools that are provided in the software.
Yeah, and then all the correct answers, they're questions that are in the handbook, so all the correct answers with the reference and rationale, you can find those things in the ARE 5.0 handbook
Absolutely.
like Nick mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a question. Any changes to the vignette software? The answer to that is no. The vignette software between now and June 30th, when ARE 4.0 is going to remain the same. And as we've stated already, ARE 5.0 does not have the vignettes in it. So if you know the vignette software now, then you know what you need to know to get in there and start testing on that. Can I take ARE 5.0 before ARE 4.0 retires?
Yeah, that's another great question, and I can take this one. Absolutely. When ARE 5.0 launched November 1st of 2016, candidates were able to take both ARE 4.0 or ARE 5.0. So at this point in time, even though ARE 4.0 isn't retiring until June 30th, you are free to begin testing in ARE 5.0. And in fact, we've had thousands of candidates at this point that have already gone through, taken all of ARE 5.0 and passed and become licensed architects.
Yeah, some of those candidates started out in ARE 5.0, and then a fair number of candidates took the test that they wanted to in 4.0 and then transitioned when they were ready. A lot of them took advantage of strategic testing with CDS, PPP, and SPD. And then Jose asked, does NCARB automatically switch you to ARE 5.0 after June 30th? That's a really good operational question. So Michelle, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, and the answer to that is no. It's not going to be an automatic switch. You won't wake up July 1 with, hooray, I'm now a 5.0 candidate.
I mean, you might, but not in the system at least.
What will actually happen is after June 30th, for those of you who are still current 4.0 candidates, the next time you log into your record, you will then have the opportunity to transition at that point into ARE 5.0. If you choose not to transition, you won't have the ability to schedule any additional 4.0 tests. So really your best option, of course, is to hit that transition button. But that's something that you'll need to do on your own. It's not something that the system will automatically do for you.
Great. What do I do if there are no seats left in my local testing center? Probably a lot of people going to be in, a lot more testers coming in as we get closer and closer to the retirement of ARE 4.0. What are some best practices or things that you would recommend when it comes to full test centers?
Yeah, and the first thing I would recommend is really be flexible as a candidate. I know for you, you're trying to get into the test center. Be aware that Prometric delivers other exams outside of the ARE, so they can fill up, and then basically spots are filled on a first come, first served basis. So the best advice I have for you is be flexible, whether it's you're going to end up scheduling on a Tuesday instead of a Monday, or maybe a Saturday instead of a Friday. And then also look at the time. Maybe you're typically scheduling at 8 a.m., maybe you do an evening test. And also, if you're in an area that has multiple test centers, maybe you look towards testing at a test center that you haven't typically tested at. So recommendation is to be flexible with that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we said this before already, but also just get in and test as soon as you can. I know that you may think you need a little extra time to study and you may reschedule and kind of push it out, but just try and get in and test as soon as you can, because I think as we get closer, test centers, Prometric test centers are going to get more and more full. And it's also good to remember we're not the only ones testing in Prometric test centers.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
Other people, whether it's SATs or ACTs or whatever they might be that are in there testing, are competing for some of those same seats. Okay, we've got a question here about eligibilities. Do candidates need to get eligibilities again after transitioning to ARE 5.0?
Ryan, why don't you?
The answer to that is no. So, I mean, if you have worked with either through NCARB or your jurisdiction and you have your ARE 4.0 eligibilities in place, when you go ahead and hit that transition button, the system is automatically going to create the new eligibilities that you require in ARE 5.0. So that's part of transitioning. Now, if you're a new candidate coming in and looking to begin testing, you're automatically going to begin in ARE 5.0, and then you need to go through that typical process of getting your eligibilities. And it varies a little bit by jurisdiction. Sometimes it's coming directly through NCARB because we have an agreement with that jurisdiction, and sometimes it does require you to go to your state first. I recommend getting on the NCARB website. You can use there's a couple different tools on there. And in the ARE 5.0 guidelines, it also talks about that a little bit further. So check those things out if you're unsure about where to begin on getting your eligibilities. All right, is the study material for ARE 4.0 still good for the ARE 5.0, or is it recommended to get brand new material to prepare for ARE 5.0? This is a good question, one that we've covered on previous NCARB Lives. Michelle, what do you think?
I would say it is a good place to start. So if you have a lot of 4.0 study materials, maybe you've already tested in a few of the 4.0 divisions, you're looking to transition to 5.0, then I would say no, you don't have to immediately go out and get a lot of new materials.
Yeah.
The one thing that I always recommend to candidates is to open up the exam guides from 4.0. As well as the 5.0 handbook. Both of those list content areas for each division, as well as descriptions, getting into some more detail about what those content areas really mean. look at those side by side, and then you'll have a good idea of where those 4.0 materials might kind of translate into 5.0.
Yeah.
What sections of the different divisions those materials might help you out with.
Absolutely.
So, Nick, do you have any other?
Yeah, I was
advice
just
on
going to
that?
add on, take advantage of the handbook. And what we've done new with ARE 5.0 is we've listed some of the common resources that our item writers use to actually write these questions, whether it's architectural graphic standards or the handbook of professional practice. And these might be books that you already have within your architecture firms, or maybe you have from when you went to school. So take advantage of those and don't feel like you have to go out and buy all new study material. You might already have some of these readily available to you.
Yeah, and another good place to check might be local study chapters, whether it's your AIA group or if you're in a large firm that has robust resources. Some of them may have already purchased ARE 5.0 material for you as well to begin studying. Okay, it looks like we have a follow-up question about vignettes. Should candidates expect to see questions similar to vignettes mixed in with the multiple choice questions now in ARE 5.0? So I think this is talking about some of our new item types, which we have 2 new item types in ARE 5.0 that we don't have in 4.0. One is hotspots and one is drag and place. So the hotspots, pretty self-explanatory. You'll be presented a graphic image and you're responsible for just clicking on that actual image where the correct answer is. Now it's not just one specific pixel, there's a scoring zone where anything in that scoring zone is correct in order to indicate the correct answer. And then the drag and place, similar, you'll be presented a background drawing, but in this case, you're going to take images and or tokens, design elements, you're going to drag them on and put them in the correct place on the background drawing. Now, both of these item types are in the demo exam. I know it's a little bit confusing probably to try and explain it here over an NCARB Live like this, but I definitely recommend getting into the demo exam and checking them out there. Not the same as vignettes, testing similar type things that the vignettes do, but really a whole new platform, better functionality, a lot more user-friendly in order to do that.
Absolutely.
You know, another great resource on that is we have a bunch of YouTube videos
That's right, we do have the YouTube
explain each of
videos.
those item types. We have YouTube videos for each content area, as well as the YouTube videos covering those new item types that Ryan just described, as well as a video covering the case studies.
Absolutely.
So that's another sort of new item format, I guess we
Yeah.
can say, on the exam. And those videos really go into some demonstration and some step-by-step explanation of how to use those in the test center.
Absolutely.
We've mentioned case studies a couple times now, but for anybody in 4.0 that is thinking about transitioning, they may not know what those are. So Nick, can you tell us a little bit more about what a case study is?
Absolutely. So a case study, Ryan explained a little bit about the item types, the new item types we have for ARE 5.0. So what a case study is, it's not exactly an item type. What it is, at the end of each division of the exam, you'll be given a group of 10 to 20 items, and then associated with that, you'll be given a series of resources in a scenario. So what a case study is it's basically, you'll be presented with these resources, whether it's a set of drawings, elevations, maybe a code document, some ADA information, and then what you need to do is to answer that question, you're going to use those references, and then you're going to respond to each question.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, and that really mimics a real-world situation.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's
Absolutely.
the type of thing that hopefully many of you are faced with in the office, and all 3 of us are architects and dealt with situations like that in our practices prior to coming to NCARB of just working on a project, receiving that phone call from a client or a contractor, and thinking about multiple aspects of a project at a certain moment in time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
being able to take multiple pieces of information, synthesize it, and come up with the correct answer.
Absolutely.
Right.
And those are always located at the end of the exam in 5.0. Do I have to wait until the end of the exam to take those items?
No, you could actually, if you are comfortable and you want to jump right into the case studies right when you launch your exam, you're free to click on the exam summary screen and you can jump right to the end. Do the case study questions first. Or if you choose to wait till the end of your exam to complete them, you can start at question 1. Ultimately, that's a decision that's going to be up to you from a testing strategy standpoint.
Yeah, whatever you're most comfortable with. Okay, so Bia wants to know, do ARE 4.0 credits count towards ARE 5.0 even if the results come out after June 30th? Bia, yes they do. So you absolutely have to test before June 30th, but we know that getting exam results takes about a week, 2 weeks. It kind of depends on ARE 5.0, in ARE 4.0 because of scoring the vignettes. So even if you don't get that score report until July 1st, July 3rd, July 11th, you would still get credit for that as far as applying towards credits in ARE 5.0. All All right. I want to take my first ARE 5.0 exam in a few months. Which of the 6 divisions do you recommend me taking first? This is a great question.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's one correct answer.
No.
But what would be your perspective to begin with, Michelle?
Oh gosh, I would really look back at what my experience is right now, my working experience. So this is a great place to think about where you are in AXP, for instance, if you're still going through that. Of course, these 6 experience areas in AXP are aligned with the 6 divisions of the exam.
Yep.
So it's a great place to think that, well, gee, you're spending a lot of time doing design development right now in work. You're getting a lot of those hours logged in AXP. Maybe this is a great time to study for the PDD exam while those topics are really fresh in your mind. Or for other candidates, I know myself, when I was taking the exam, I started with a content area that just made the most sense to me. I kind of jumped in the middle, said, this one subject area, I get it. I'm feeling really confident about it. I saw that as kind of an easy win to get my feet wet before I jumped into areas that were harder.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And really what it comes down to is what you're most comfortable with. In ARE 4.0 and in ARE 5.0, you can test in any order. So just because we list them practice management to construction and evaluation doesn't mean you have to take them in that order. So maybe practice management's the last one you want to take, and like Michelle said, just start with either where you've got a lot of experience in AXP or where you just feel most comfortable with. Put together a plan that works for you and what you feel comfortable with and really attack that.
Yep.
Margot would like to know, can I take an ARE 5.0 exam and then go back and take a 4.0 exam? Margot, the short answer for that is no. It is a one-way transition. So once you hit that transition button from ARE 4.0 and officially become an ARE 5.0 candidate, there's no going back. All right, let's see, more coming in. A lot of questions here, it looks like. If an ARE 4.0 exam is split into 2 parts and you only pass one part, can you get partial credit in ARE 5.0? This question I think might actually be asking if 2 exams make a credit in ARE 5.0.
Yes.
So taking CDS and PPP, getting credit for practice management in ARE 5.0.
Yeah.
What's the answer to that? If I've only passed CDS...
Unfortunately, that's a no, Ryan. The best thing that I could recommend you do is open up that transition calculator that we talked about earlier and plug in the exams that you have passed thus far, and then you'll see how it transfers over to ARE 5.0. If you see the little pie chart and you've only accomplished half of, let's say, project development and documentation, it's not enough. You need to have all the exams in 4.0 to receive the full credit for an ARE 5.0 division. So take advantage of that ARE 5.0 calculator to see how those exams transfer over to ARE 5.0.
Yeah. Okay, briefly looking at pass rates between ARE 4.0 and 5.0, it seems 5.0 pass rates are noticeably lower. Okay, was the intent of 5.0 to improve pass rates or lower pass rates at all? You want to take that? Do you want me to take it?
Well, I'll start.
Okay.
The last part of that question, no. The intent of 5.0 was not about raising or lowering pass rates.
Yeah.
The intent of 5.0 was, like we mentioned earlier, really moving the exam onto a new technology platform, keeping the exam current with the current trends in testing. That's something that we follow very closely beyond architecture. We also follow testing.
Current trends in testing, and I think current trends in architecture as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Keeping the exam current with current practice of architecture. So as well as, we were certainly aware that the vignette software was getting old. We are limited in the number of updates that we can make to the vignette software. So there are a lot of reasons to move on to the new technology, the new platform, and just really advance the exam to 5.0. But none of those reasons had to do with pass rates.
Yeah. ARE 4.0, ARE 5.0, any version of ARE has never really chased pass rates and tried to get it at a certain rate. That is not the purpose of the ARE. It's about defining competency, and so I think that's always good to remember. It's probably also important to point out that right now we are dealing with lower test volumes in 5.0 than we are in 4.0. So some of those statistics probably look a little bit low that way, and we fully expect that as more and more candidates become ARE 5.0 candidates, as we get higher volumes in some of those divisions, pass rates are going to go up. We expect pass rates to continue to go up as people just become more familiar with ARE 5.0, as there's more and more test prep material, as people get a better understanding of how to study for it and really attack that, use the demo exam, being familiar with case studies. We think all of those things will help pass rates to improve. But back to what you were saying, the root of the ARE has never been about chasing pass rates one way or another.
And also I want to add on, we have a great blog series on our website here at NCARB. And last fall we produced a blog looking at those first pass rates relative to, well, where were the 4.0 pass rates when we transitioned from 3.1 to 4.0?
Yeah.
So definitely take advantage of our blog series and check that blog out on ARE 5.0 pass rates from last fall.
Great. Okay, Susan says, drag and drop rotating is not clear on NCARB's site, and I have to look on the forums for the answer. Are there any other tricks that people need to know for the new problem types? What do you think, Nick?
When we developed our handbook and our demonstration exam, our goal was to get everyone up to speed with all the intricacies of the software. And that's part of the reason why we had the demonstration exam. We want you going into the test center prepared, knowing how to use the tools. And I would say outside of the rotate tool, as far as drag and place, that's really outside of dragging a token onto a background image, that's really the only other function is to rotate. I would say definitely read through our handbook. We're trying to be as open as possible on all the tools and take advantage of that demonstration exam to test these tools out and be familiar with them.
Any tricks or anything in hotspots? I mean, they're pretty, what do you think? Pretty self-explanatory?
Yeah, the hotspot is pretty self-explanatory. I'll just echo what Nick said.
Yeah.
Just use that demonstration exam. Go back in there as often as you'd like. It's not about taking a mock exam. It really is about familiarizing yourself with the test environment. And understanding not just the tools for the hotspots and the drag and place, but understanding how the calculator works, the reference window
Reference
that drops down
tabs
provides you the references for various subject areas, just how to search within resources that are in a case study, bookmarks in those resources. So there's a lot of stuff in there. We've tried to be as transparent as we can about those tools. But that's a great opportunity. I'll just plug the community again. Actually, the 5.0 community is another great place to ask those questions and say, gee, I was trying this out in the demonstration exam and I couldn't figure out how to do X. Other test takers and the three of us are there to help you as you go through and discover those tools.
Yeah, and make sure you have the latest version of the ARE 5.0 handbook. I think the most recent one is August of last year. So if it was a while ago that you first downloaded it, make sure you have the most recent one, because we did go back when we received feedback that rotating maybe wasn't that clear. A couple other things. We added a few things just to try and make it as clear as possible. We certainly aren't trying to hide anything, and we're trying to make the handbook continually improve on it and make it as user-friendly as possible also.
And in that update, what we actually did, based on that feedback of the rotate tool, we actually introduced a new item in that handbook that will allow you to become familiar with that tool by having you rotate to answer the question properly. So that was one of our enhancements to the handbook.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, question here about scheduling and rescheduling. If I schedule an exam in ARE 4.0, can I reschedule it in ARE 5.0? Michelle?
No.
No.
You can't.
Yeah.
We spoke a little bit earlier about eligibilities. Those eligibilities are specific for each division of the exam.
Yeah.
So once you have scheduled, say, BDCS in 4.0, and then you decide, I would really rather just jump over the 5.0 at this point, the eligibility for BDCS is only for BDCS. So you can't use that eligibility, which we sometimes talk about that as a ticket. You can't use that for a different division, whether it's a different 4.0 division or a different 5.0 division.
Yeah.
So if that was the situation, your best bet would probably be to just go ahead and take the exam. You would lose that $210, unfortunately, if you didn't. But know that those eligibilities are really specific to each division.
Yeah. Okay. It seems like a lot is hinging on passing PPP, one person says, to take advantage of the transition. but most people seem to trip up on the vignette in PPP. Any advice? Okay, so first of all, for those who don't know, which is the vignette in PPP?
The site zoning vignette.
It is the site zoning vignette, yep. Any advice on it?
I would say the best advice I have for you is get on the 4.0 community. When you solve it, when you're practicing it, post it on there. As I said in our introduction, we are the moderators on that community. We check it Monday through Friday, and we're on there to help you out if we see that maybe your section isn't being cut properly, or maybe there's an issue in the site plan portion of that vignette. We're going to be there to provide guidance and help support you on that. So take advantage of that community. And not only are we on there, we have thousands of other community members who have taken the PPP exam, and they'll provide valuable feedback for you. So yes, ARE 4.0 community would be your best friend when you're preparing for the PPP vignette.
Yeah, definitely good for when you're preparing. When you're in the actual test center, my advice is going to be to just take your time and read carefully. There's should be plenty of time in that vignette to be able to sit there, read it, make sure your easts or your wests are correctly and your setbacks are right, that your angles, that you're going off the section line and not at the front of the property line when you're drawing your building profiles. So just take your time when you're in the test center, take a deep breath, and then read through carefully, just to make sure that you don't make any silly or accidental mistakes.
Absolutely.
The other thing I'll throw out there that I found helpful when I was testing was using my scratch paper to just jot down particularly all those zoning requirements.
Yep.
There's a lot of requirements about setbacks from the different property lines, building height limitations, that sort of thing. So jotting all of that down on your scratch paper and then flipping over to the actual drawing screen means that now you don't have to flip back and forth between the drawing screen and the program screen, so you can just stay on that one screen. You've got your notes on your scratch paper. You can even use that as a checklist to go back and check your solution before you submit your solution. You now have a checklist to make sure that you've hit each of those program requirements.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think the mistake we see most often in that vignette is drawing the building profile at the front of the property rather than drawing it at the section line. So really be careful of making sure that you're drawing your building profile at the section line. Okay, Jeff asks, I have CDS, PPP, and SS, so structural systems, in ARE 4.0. Cannot transition, ... So what happens if I don't pass by June 30th? I'm not sure quite what Jeff means by the cannot transition, but with CDS and PPP, you would certainly earn some credits in ARE 5.0. So you'd earn construction evaluation for that CDS. And then the combination of CDS and PPP would give you practice management and project management. So automatically by transitioning, you only have 3 exams left in ARE 5.0. Now that SS, your structural systems, yes, it's a pass in 4.0. Great job on that. But it's not actually going to combine with anything between now and June 30th in order to earn you a credit in 5.0. So unless you really want to go after SPD and try and pick up that additional programming and analysis credit, you could do that. Otherwise, you might be in a great spot now, Jeff, to just go ahead and transition and start working on ARE 5.0 and studying and preparing for those exams.
Absolutely.
All right. Willie Williams. Willie, great name. You said you can take each section every 60 days. Can I take them all every 60 days, or do I have a max year to take? You said you can take each sections every 60 days. Can I take them all every 60 days, or do I have a max per year to take them? So you have a max. I think I understand this question.
Yes.
Do you? You have a max
so.
per division. You can only take each division 3 times within a running year. So February 15th this year, so February 15th next year, you can only take an ARE 5.0 division 3 times. No maxes as far as total number of tests that you can take in a year, I guess, unless it was 3 times 6, so 18 exams in a year if you really wanted to. But hopefully that's not you. Do you think I'm understanding that question correctly? Would you add anything?
That was what I took as well.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So there's a couple more questions, it seems like, coming in about partial credit transitioning from ARE 4.0 to ARE 5.0. Maybe we should go back through that again.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit more about that partial credit, how the credit model works, what earns you a credit in 5.0 from 4.0. Michelle, do you want to start?
Yeah. So the intent, of course, when you're passing a division is that you have demonstrated your competency across all subject areas within that division. So if you were to receive partial credit, let's say because you've passed CDS but not PPP, transition into 5.0, and you're thinking, well, I've covered half the content in practice management because of passing CDS. The problem is that then if you sat for only half of practice management, you wouldn't have demonstrated your competency across all areas of practice management. It's really about demonstrating your competency during that entire division. So the divisions, they just aren't set up to only test you on some things but not other things. So it's really important to kind of have that background in mind about how the exam is set up, kind of the way that you are, and this isn't NCARB, this is the state boards, are asking you to demonstrate your competency in those subject areas. So the bottom line then is that, as Nick was mentioning on that transition calculator, those pie charts at the top of each division there, you really do need to fill in that entire pie chart in order to receive credit for that division.
Yeah. I think the transition chart is either on the screen or getting ready to come on the screen. Do you want to talk maybe just a little bit about CDS, PPP, and SPD? Because that's what we're referring to when we say strategic testing.
Yeah, absolutely. And strategic testing at this point is very, very, very important, Ryan. I would say if you have the order that you really want to take them in is really prescribed, and you can see it in a hierarchy in that transition calculator. So starting with construction documents and services, if you were to pass that division and then transition, you would automatically receive credit for one division in ARE 5.0. So that's the best division that you can start with in ARE 4.0. And then you move on to PPP, Programming, Planning, and Practice. That's another very important division that you would want to schedule following CDS if you were in ARE 4.0. And the reason is, if you pull up that transition calculator, is when you click on CDS and then PPP, you'll see all the credits you'll receive for ARE 5.0 divisions, and then followed by SPD. Now those three, I would say that's probably a good stopping point for you in ARE 4.0 based on our schedule of the exam retiring on June 30th of 2018.
Yep.
I would not recommend at this point scheduling building systems, structural systems.
Unless those were your last.
Unless those were your last divisions,
you're really at the end.
Or you're very confident that you can complete ARE 4.0 prior to that June 30th date. It's really important to use that calculator to your advantage and make a plan for how you actually want to complete the AREs, whether it's taking those three, SPD, PPP, and CDS in 4.0 and transitioning, or maybe we had a question earlier, maybe it's just passing CDS and PPP and then transitioning over. That's also a good route to take. So best advice, open up that calculator and take advantage of that tool, because as Michelle said, unfortunately there is no partial credit when you go to transition.
Yeah, that's really good advice. But Michelle, let's say I've had my 4.0 eligibilities for a little while.
Okay.
Maybe I've even taken some 4.0 exams but haven't been successful. So right now I have 0 passes in 4.0. It's February 15th. We know that the exam's turning off on June 30th. Would you recommend I even still try and test in 4.0?
I would recommend at that point transitioning to 5.0.
Okay. And why is that?
Well, Ryan, I think that if you don't have any past divisions in 4.0, again, just the pressure right now, time constraints, having that June 30th deadline looming in some sense. I would think that given testing history of not being successful in 4.0, it is perfect time for really just a clean break, move over to 5.0. I think especially because 5.0 is on a different platform, we've removed the vignettes, we have the new graphic questions that for a lot of candidates are somewhat intuitive because they reflect actual practice so much more closely. I think a lot of candidates who've been struggling with 4.0 are really finding more success in 5.0.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's all good advice. We've said it a couple times already, but just log into your NCARB record and use that transition calculator so that you can really see how this is you. Because it's individual. It varies by individual. And if you have further questions, call NCARB customer service. They're more than equipped to help you with that. Or hop onto one of the communities, whether it's the 5.0 or the 4.0 one, and ask questions. And either other people on there or the three of us will be happy to help walk you through if going through this today hasn't been quite clear to your situation. All right, moving on just a little bit. All exams passed in ARE 4.0 by June 30th are then translated to exams in ARE 5.0, right? We do not start from zero after that date, correct? Well, no, not really. Because if you're done in ARE 4.0, you're done. So you are what is officially called ARE complete, and you don't have to worry about ARE 4.0, ARE 5.0, 6.0, 7.0. You don't have to worry about the ARE anymore after that point. So if you're done in 4.0, you won't officially or translate or anything like that become a 5.0 candidate. You're just done. You get done with your AXP, you got your education requirements, you're ready to get your state license, your initial license in whatever jurisdiction you're in. All right, Milton, if you fail CDS 3 times in ARE 4.0 before June 30th, do you need to wait 1 year to take construction and evaluation in ARE 5.0? This is a good question. It kind of goes back to that ticket analogy that you had earlier.
Right, and the answer is no, because those eligibilities are set up specifically for each division of the exam. So if you have failed any division in 4.0 or in 5.0 for that matter 3 times, that doesn't affect your eligibility to take other divisions. So transitioning over to 5.0, you can right away start setting up tests for those 5.0 divisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone's asking if the mock exam software is easy to use with Windows 10. I had heard there were issues.
Not that we are aware of. So the way the demonstration exam works is it's launched through your internet browser. So you can use Firefox if you prefer Chrome.
Yep.
Chrome works. Internet Explorer. All 3 of those. Maybe if you're on a Mac, Safari, you can use that to launch
I'd
the
avoid like
demonstration exam.
Netscape Navigator,
Absolutely.
Alta Vista, maybe one of those really old ones, but any web browser is going to work
Absolutely.
for it.
And since it's web launched, it doesn't matter where you're at. You could be in California, you could be traveling abroad, and you could access that demonstration exam there as well. So the advantages of the internet-based testing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so internet-based testing, is that the same way that we're doing it in the test center itself?
Absolutely. Yeah, so and just to be clear, we're talking about 5.0 here.
Yes, ARE 5.0 only.
Internet-based testing is 5.0. So the way that you would access the exam, the demonstration exam, which is a link through your record, is the same way. That it's a secure URL when you're sitting at the Prometric Test Center. But again, it is a web-based exam when you're sitting at the test center, and that's how it's delivered. So, again, that demo exam is set up exactly as how you'll see it in the test center. So that's why we keep stressing taking that demo exam. You'll see the same confidentiality agreement, the same exam review screen, the same tools as far as the calculator and the references go. It really is set up the exact same way that you would see it at Prometric.
Good. All right, it looks like we have time for about one more question here. It's a question that's come in about rescheduling and that June 30th date again. What if I schedule an exam close to the retirement date, June 30th, 2018, in case you weren't aware of that yet,
Thanks for that.
and need to reschedule it at the last minute? Will I be able to test after June 30th, 2018?
Unfortunately, the answer to that is no. The best advice I have for you to avoid that is, as Michelle has stated, Ryan has stated, get in the test center as soon as possible. Try not to push it to the very last minute, because if you schedule an exam on June 28th and unfortunately you wouldn't be able to, let's say you couldn't make it to the appointment, you couldn't reschedule that into July. So test as soon as possible, get in the test center, and avoid the issue altogether.
Yeah.
Yep.
I bet you're more prepared to take that exam than you think if you keep rescheduling because you don't feel like you're prepared enough. We've been around the test for a while, and we've seen a lot of testers, and a lot of times people are more ready to take that exam than they think. So like Nick said, just get in and get testing as soon as possible, and don't keep pushing it off. All right, we are out of time for questions here, but let's take a couple minutes and maybe each of us have sort of a final takeaway before we sign off. Michelle, do you want to start?
Sure, and my final takeaway actually echoes a little bit of what Nick was just saying, is that if you are a current 4.0 candidate, just get in there and test. You know that clock is ticking, and especially if you've already passed 3, 4, 5 divisions in 4.0, you know that you just have a couple left. Just get in there, get it done, and get to that ARE complete status.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nick, your final takeaway?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to build on what Michelle just said. And if you are currently holding eligibilities to ARE 4.0, but you haven't begun testing in that version of the exam, my recommendation would be to jump into your record and transition over to 5.0. Don't mess with 4.0 at this point. Or if you're an individual who you're really struggling with ARE 4.0, maybe you're not having a lot of success on the vignettes, and it's not going well for you, I recommend jumping over to ARE 5.0. It's a different type of exam that might be better fit for you as an individual and how you work. So that's my recommendation.
Okay. I think my last takeaway is use the resources that are available to you, folks. Whether you are trying to finish up in ARE 4.0 or you're beginning testing in ARE 5.0, there are a lot of resources that are available to you as you prepare. They can be study groups through large offices, like we mentioned, your local AIA chapters. NCARB has tried to put out as many resources as possible in order to help you. That includes our videos, the demo exam, which we've talked a lot about, the ARE 5.0 handbook, the exam guides in ARE 4.0. All of these things are out there and available to help you get ready to take the exam. And the last two things I think that are really good resources to take advantage of are the ARE communities. We have the ARE 5.0 community and the ARE 4.0 community both. They're available. Links are available to both of those through your NCARB record. 4.0 is built on the Google Plus platform, and then ARE 5.0 is built on a slightly different platform, but both available through your NCARB record. And like we've said a couple of times already, the three of us are on there, usually at least one of us once a day, if not all of us multiple times a day, just trying to provide answers. Those communities have really grown a lot over the last few years. There are other testers that are probably in the exact same situation as you that are going through the studying and preparing as well, and they are as much of a resource as any of the three of us can be on there. So I think that about covers it.
Yeah.
We're out of time for the day. We hope that this answered all of your questions. If not, like I just said, hop onto the community, reach out to us on any one of our other social platforms, and get the questions that you need. Call customer service if that's the case. If it's a really specific question that you need help on, you can always call our customer service number, and they're there to help you. So we just want to say thank you for joining us. We look forward to talking to you again the next time, and have a great day.